At the risk of sounding conspiratorial, it sure seems like the deliberate fomenting of division between Americans and the government, being underfunded into incompetency, makes sure it seem like there's an attempt to break the state. Well, it's not conspiratorial. I mean, look, it was 10 years ago, at least, more, that Grover Norquist said, our aim is to defund the government to get it weak enough to drown it in the bathtub. People who hate government are not going to in any way fund government and seek to make it work effectively. And that's why a guy like Cuomo, I'm not surprised at all. Christie, I'm not surprised. They'll come out and they'll just say, like, what will be naked political gain, really possibly at the expense of lives in the future. I mean, the bottom line, we're not going to stop Ebola unless it is stopped in Western Africa. That's the bottom line. And unless, apparently, like, the UN attempts to get money for this has just been falling on deaf ears.
Kofi Annan said last week that he was bitterly disappointed in the global response to Liberia and West Africa. And I just sent you a story you should talk about as well, because that's the other consequence of this sort of garbage we're seeing.
Yeah, well, we saw some of this the past weeks with kids from East Africa, literally 2,500 miles away from any of the countries that are suffering this Ebola crisis, kept out of school. Well, now, two young brothers who emigrated from Senegal to the Bronx, they're in 6th and 8th grade, were sent to the hospital by several people who beat them and called them Ebola. The father had this to say. He got called from the school. Said, I rush, go there. Children was very hurt, headached. He was crying, laying on the floor, more than 10 children on top of him, beating him. All they want to do is be kids. They want to play like kids. They want to learn like kids. They go to school and they've been bullied over and over to the point which it led to this situation in which they were brutally injured. Unbelievable.
There's a direct relationship between
Of
that.
course.
And it's so disgusting.
Of course.